Hello and welcome to our recap video where we review the results from the second Open for Birmingham in EU specifically. So I made the picks last week, we watched them this weekend, and now let's see and rank how'd we do? How'd I do? So let's just look first at Group A. I had Ninjas over Caliente 3-1, and that's exactly what it was. So that's a perfect start, which is awesome. I had GK over RRG. In reality, it was a 3-1. I had it as a 3-2. So Ninjas GK, I had correct. Now, let's look at Vitality JJ Rocks. That was a 3-1 as well. I didn't think JJ Rocks was going to pull a game off of them, so good for them for doing that. But still, Vitality won that relatively easily. And then Start Point, I had 3 compared to Redemption 2. So, my first bracket here is, pretty good. This is probably the best start I've ever had just on closeness of games. So I'm 4 for 4, and that's a good start. I think we just take this all the way through to keep it simple. Ninjas over GK, I had 3-0. In reality, it was a 3-1. Vitality over Start Point, I had as a 3-1, and it was a 3-0. So I picked both. Now, here's where the first upset happened. Ninjas in Pajamas won 3-2 over Vitality, and obviously, as you can see in the last game, wasn't super close, or at least it wasn't until towards the end. Ninjas in Pajamas really pulled away. So almost a perfect run, just lost one match where Vitality was supposed to beat Ninjas 3-2, but Ninjas beat them 3-2 in reality. I say supposed to be. I mean, that's what my prediction was. So I would give myself an A for that. Pretty close, maybe A- or a B+. So how did my lowers do from there? So I had Caliente RRG. I thought RRG was going to go further. As you can see, I had them qualifying, whereas they went out in the lower quarterfinals. So that was probably one of my bigger misses of the tournament. So I thought RRG was going to do a little bit better. Obviously, they didn't. JJ Rocks also beat Redemption. I wasn't expecting that to happen. But either way, Start Point beat RRG to get here, and then GK won to get here, and then beat Start Point. So I had GK there, but I thought this was going to be RRG. Obviously, it was Start Point. They had a great tournament. Start Point did. So that's how I did in Group A. Let's look at how Group B did. So far so good, right? Pretty good results. I had Dignitas over Nomster 3-1. That's exactly correct. I had I had Ascend over Save the Game, which is kind of ironic because Ascend ended up doing very well. So this is a wrong pick. They got 3-0'd. And not super high scoring games, but obviously Ascend could put up 1 goal against Save the Game. So not very good performance from them. Carmine Corp over Forward 3-0. Easy pick, in my opinion. Gentlemates over 100%. Good pick, but obviously Gentlemates had a bad Birmingham Open 2, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can see I had Dignitas winning over Ascend. Obviously, Save the Game was the one that actually got there. Either way, doesn't matter. I had Dignitas winning that series and then losing to Carmine Core. And then I had Carmine beating Gentlemates 3-1. In reality, they beat them 3-0. Sorry, let me scroll up a little bit because I think my head might be blocking some of these results. I can't see myself when I'm doing this, so apologies if I blocked anything that I've talked about so far. So Carmine 3-0, Dignitas Carmine, very standard pick. Nothing too surprising there unless you're a certified hater of Carmine or Dignitas. But 3-1, that's exactly what it was. 3-1, Carmine Core on top. So how'd the lowers look? So had Nomster over Save the Game. This is where my bracket gets a little bit blown up because I was expecting Ascend to win here, and they didn't. So that kind of ruins my bracket from here. But Gentlemates went under. I was expecting them to play Nomster. Obviously, Ascend beat Nomster. So that kind of area wasn't even close to being accurate. And obviously I had Ascend in a different bracket based on when they lost to Dignitas. I thought they were going to come down here. So then 100%, I had qualifying and winning out from the lowers. And then I also had Gentlemates qualifying out and losing the lower bracket final, but being in the top 8 teams here. Obviously, they didn't. Gentlemates had a really tough series. Ascend pretty much smacked them. I mean, those games are all close, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2 plus overtime. But from a team like Gentlemates, I think most of us were pretty surprised to see them do this poorly, and it doesn't bode well for their season. It's very possible that they're going to miss the first major, and they have no one to blame but themselves. They lost to Carmine Corp. Okay, can't blame you for losing to the best team arguably in the world right now, or pretty clearly in the world right now. But losing to Ascend, just kind of, they're going to pick up their 2 points or whatever from that, and that's going to be it. So too bad for them, and we'll kind of see how that affects my bracket. But I was very happy, or I was very excited about 100%, especially based on how they did in Open 1. I thought they did awesome. So then let's take it down to the playoffs here. Obviously, at this point, we're going to be looking at the spoilers, so you can kind of jump ahead. But let's see. In the uppers, or maybe let's start left to right. So in the lower round 1, I had Gentlemates beating GK. Now 100% beat GK to tuck that spot instead. So, my bracket's not 100% accurate here. I had RRG making it all the way. Obviously, they did not come close. And so here in my bracket doesn't really make sense, but 100% did move forward. And then I did actually have them losing to Ninjas in Pajamas, so that was kind of accurate. RRG overly inflated, or I thought they were going to do better than they did. I wouldn't call myself a hater of GK. I just haven't seen anything. I haven't seen enough from them to think that they were going to be top 8. I think they're right on that gatekeeper status. And it's actually, I should say that. I shouldn't say that. It's very possible that they could bracket their way to an 8, but I don't think they're going to beat like 3 or 4 teams in a row to get a top 8. So I wouldn't consider myself a hater. I want to see them do well, but obviously they're not super happy with their results, especially since this was a good opportunity for GK to take some points when Gentlemates went out super early. Now, let's look at the uppers. I had Vitality over Dignitas. They ended up not being, these matchups didn't happen, so I had Vitality and Carmine Core winning. With them playing, obviously that couldn't be the case, so Carmine Core won, and then Dignitas beat Ninjas in Pajamas. So I didn't have these teams playing each other, and I don't know how I would have called this. I have Dignitas in my top 4, but I was liking what I was seeing from Ninjas in Pajamas better. So if I had to pick like top 3, I would have picked Ninjas over Dignitas before the event. Now that the events happened, I mean, Dignitas really came out and showed everybody what they can do. So that means the lowers I had as Dignitas Gentlemates, Dignitas advancing, Ninjas advancing over 100%. Obviously, that technically happened here in this lower bracket finals, but then I wasn't expecting Vitality to be in the lower bracket quarterfinals but I would have picked Carmine over anybody. As you can see, I picked them to win. So I'm not surprised that Vitality got sent to the lower quarterfinals. However, that series was awesome, and it really does show you that they are a lot closer than you'd think, and they had them on triple match point, right? So they won the first game, lost the second game. Vitality did, and then they won the second and third game. So they had 3 opportunities to beat KC, and they didn't do it. They beat them 3 times at the start, and then KC clutched up, and it wasn't super close until this 5-minute overtime game 7. I mean, I don't know how different the tournament would have gone if KC went and had to play start point. I'm sure they would have absolutely destroyed them and gone right into the semifinals and been fine. No offense to start point. You guys had a great tournament. But realistically, I mean, I didn't think Carmine was really losing to anybody. And even if Vitality did beat them here, I wasn't expecting anyone else to beat Carmine Corp. I switch between saying Carmine and Carmine, and I should just pick one. So K-Corp, I'm just going to start saying that instead. K-Corp 4-0'd Ninjas in Pajamas. This was more dominant than I was expecting, but also not surprising. Ninjas in Pajamas has a very... Here's my read. Ninjas in Pajamas has a very solo-oriented game style, which works well because you have 3 incredible solo players, and it seems like to me their strategy is whoever is one, or whoever's first on the play or on the ball taking up the court or up the sidewall is usually good enough to at least get past the first, if not the second. So they might get past the first and then take the 50 with the second. Then that leaves the third from the other team on the wall, or either on the wall or in the net. And then there's 2 other people, Ninjas in Pajamas, who will then do a 2-on-1, and then you might see a passing play. But I feel like I didn't really see very many 3-person passing plays. There was some infield passing for Ninjas in Pajamas, but it feels like their style is a little bit more solo oriented. And if you don't get the beats, if you know what I mean, like if the first player doesn't get the beat, then it seemed like they couldn't quite find their offense against K-Corp. So that was my take. Curious what everyone else thinks. So, the other upset here is I had, my bracket, I didn't have these teams playing each other, so it's hard to say. But I had Vitality advancing to the grand final, and they lost pretty convincingly to Dignitas, just really didn't look themselves. And I think that's mostly because Dignitas didn't let them. They kept good pressure. It's funny because there's like a Brazil in the middle of this series, but somehow Vitality still couldn't figure it out. It's like Dignitas, like there was an adjustment made, they 7-1'd them, and then after that it was not close. I thought that Jorius really had a strong series. Jack had a great series. Stizzy had his moments. I think he's still, we're still seeing him develop, I should say, in that his peak is very high and he has some great plays, and he looks like a fun player to play with. Like he has super high energy. Like if you just watch the player cams while they were playing, every time his teammates scored, he'd be so excited for them. So he looks like a fun teammate to have, and obviously he's super talented. So I think, the floor of, just the base level saves, not making any own goal mistakes or any bad touch mistakes like that is going to come with a little bit more experience. So I think there's really good things ahead for Dignitas. And I think I put them as number 3 in Europe, and I put Ninjas behind them. I think I like Dignitas over Ninjas right now. It's easy to say because they 4-2'd them here, and that's the most recent matchup we have. I think stylistically, though, Dignitas has a better world beater style, whereas Ninjas in Pajamas is more fun to watch. Just as it's just fun to watch the technical play of those 3 players. Super fun. Tachi Nas and Oski for Ninjas in Pajamas. I had Carmine winning 4-3 over Vitality. We did get that in the upper bracket quarterfinals, but we did not get that in the grand final. Obviously, Dignitas beat Vitality, earned their spot in the grand final, and then pretty much got smoked by KC. And that's not to critique their performance so much. I think Carmine is, what do you want to say, S+ tier, and then everyone else in Europe is A tier right now. So if you're like Falcons or NRG, and even NRG's been a little shaky, maybe Furia as well. If you're like one of the top 5 teams in the world, you're looking at this and you're saying, all we got to do is beat K-Corp. Now, obviously, you can never sit the team of Vitality out, especially in person LAN. Those 3 players do very well in person playing. But if you're from a different region than EU, you've got to be thinking, oh, this has got to be the best year ever to win in EU, beat an EU team and win a major. So I think everyone outside of EU is excited for that. It would have been a little bit more fun for the storyline if Vitality won this, and I saw some streamers or content creators predict Vitality to beat K-Corp in the grand final and win. And I think it would have been more fun to have that, because then they would have had K-Corp win one and Vitality win one, and it would have been like back and back. Everyone tunes in for the third open and is super excited to see that, but obviously we didn't get that. So let's see. How did my final rankings do? Okay. He doesn't quite have it filled out yet, and I was trying to find the best way to look at the point system, how it's laid out over here on the right. But you can see I was pretty close. A little bit of movement in the bottom. I overestimated RRG. I had them finishing in 7th or 8th place, but they were only in 13th to 16th. But other than that, and I also had Gentlemates top 6, when in reality they were top 12, 9 through 12. So I overestimated Gentlemates and RRG. The teams that did better than I was expecting were Start Point and Ascend. Let me pull that up. They had a good, they got there, they did their thing. I was expecting 100% to do well, so I'm not surprised that they did got where they were. So I would give myself like an A for this. I think the only place where I really faltered was those two things I covered, Gentlemates, and I don't think picking Gentlemates to go out top 6 is a bad pick. I think if I would have had them in top 4, then them going out so early would have definitely been a bad look. But I'm going to give myself an A for this. You guys let me know what you think of my predictions and how your predictions turned out. And my intention is to keep making these videos. So let me know what you think. I hope you have a wonderful day, and be on the lookout for NA Open 2 coming out this week as well. Thank you so much. Have a great night.